Are y'all here for the open house class, I'm assuming? Okay. Nice to meet y'all. I'm April. We're going to give a couple people, I know there's a couple more people that are planning to come. I'm going to give them just another minute. And then if anybody that is online has any questions they want to kind of go ahead and start sending, will you let me know if they do? I don't have a formal presentation. I'm just going to kind of talk through some things. But if anytime you have any questions or thoughts, like, hey, I had this happen, how would you handle this? Then feel free to just stop me, ask me. I'm very informal, very transparent, as you will see. So have y'all done any open houses before?
Yeah, we actually had one. Yeah, it was in the 12 Oaks area.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think it was marketed like as it could have been, because on the first day, I was there both days that it was being hosted. The first day we did have like 2 people, 3 people show up. And then the second day there were like no shows. So like I was wondering like why that, if it was priced incorrectly, or if just marketing was like not in their favor for it, because it was in 12 Oaks and it was a really big party.
Mm-hmm. Was it new or resale?
Just new, and then it closed. It closed because there was an agent that went there with their clients already before we got there. So they put in an offer, and I'm guessing they got it because there wasn't that much show up.
So do we know, I mean, I'm assuming they wouldn't have changed the status for Sunday.
I think they came back Sunday to look.
Yeah, they came back Sunday to look at it, but they put in an offer and then it closed the next day. The listing agent posted that it was closed, or like it was under contract.
That's a unique situation. I'll have to research that a little bit more. I wish I could tell you I've had people come to an open house and then they close it the next day. I've never seen that happen. So that's interesting. I wonder if it was already under contract, but it was a good opportunity to maybe pick up clients. So
Yeah, and like I guess what I did want to ask is, what would you do in that case if there was like no shows and like you just had like a dead open house? Because I know there was like, I heard like another agent that came to co-host it with us. She said she was in Rockmore the day before, and then there was an open house in there, and like it was jam packed. So like for my first open house, I was kind of like, is it gonna be like this always? Because I didn't know what to expect.
I wish I could tell you that they're all jam-packed, but they are not always, that's for sure. I say, well, let me go ahead and let me kind of preface this by saying I built my business in open houses. I started in new construction, and literally every Saturday and Sunday, my poor daughter growing up thought we lived in that neighborhood because I spent so much time there. But every Saturday and Sunday, I would talk to anyone that would come through. And there are days that people just don't show up. When you have those days, you use that time as best as possible. That is when you catch up on your emails. You do as many social media posts as you can. If you've been invited to host that open house, you can get some great content just by going through, taking good pictures, take pictures of yourself. You know, if you don't have a selfie stick or the timer or whatever, that's just such a great time to kind of get some good content and things like that. So that's why when people are like, open houses are a waste of time, I'm like, there's no such thing as a waste of time in real estate, in my opinion, because you can be reading a motivational book, you can be, reaching out to past clients. It's always, in my opinion, you need to be prepared to have something prepared to do. Because I have had a lot of open houses where nobody showed up, especially with resale homes. We see that a little bit more where nobody comes. And it does matter how good the marketing is. So that's kind of what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with plan it well. We're going to start with conducting it, and then we're going to go into how you convert when you are there. So planning. One of the things we started implementing about 3 years ago was we actually create a Facebook event for every open house. I learned it in another marketing class, and then it wasn't until last year my husband and I were actually in Nashville, and we had some time on our hands, and I was like, let me see what's going on in the area. And I saw several other agents have posted their open house events. So you got to imagine when somebody looks for something around me, those are things that pop up as well. So if it's an event, they're going to know there's an open house 5 minutes away. I mean, we were both talking about it like, let's just go run and check this out real fast. So I always create an open house event around that open house. So for our new construction communities, we have like a standing event every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4. I do like to make my open house hours consistent, especially with new construction. So since we don't really have a sales model, that way people know when to expect someone to be there. With resales, it can be flexible. I would do 2 a day. I would do 11 to 1, pack my stuff in my car and go to another house and do 12 to 2. So I made it very efficient when I was doing the open houses. I do hate balloons. So I think it's my own hang up because I fought them for so many years. So I actually bought these great open house flags from I think I actually got them on Amazon. And they're so much easier and more eye-catching than some random balloons that you don't know if it's a birthday party or if it's open house. So no more chasing the tent signs that fall down while you're in the house and have no idea. These are actually like, don't get the 15-foot ones because they're too big to manage. But we got the 8-foot feather flags that say open house, welcome. And you can see those coming down the street in the neighborhood. So that, to me, I would always say flags over balloons every day. But going back to the Facebook, you can create an event and then you can also post it in the local group. So, there's always the local moms groups or whatever. If you're a member of those, make sure you're posting it in those areas as well, because it may not be the one person that ran it, but it may be somebody they know that they told about it. Sending out a mailing to the neighbors, if you have plenty of time. We actually have a draft of a letter that says, help me pick your neighbor, or pick your neighbor. Help us find your neighbor. You can do different things, and that encourages them. Again, with inventory issues the way they are right now, it's not like we really have a week typically, but in different times, I recommend that, just because you're engaging other sellers, potential sellers in that neighborhood, like, wow, this agent's going the extra mile to make sure this house is being marketed as good as possible. So I've always been told, 10 neighbors to the left and right, 10 across the street. So then you're essentially farming to 30 potential sellers in that neighborhood, but you're doing it from the aspect of, help us find your next neighbor. And then they're letting their friends and family know, hey, there's a house in my neighborhood, especially if you're teaming this up with a coming soon listing that's getting ready to hit the market. And the first day you can look at it is on Saturday at their open house. So I don't know if you've seen a lot of that, but a lot of agents are holding their houses off the market. They'll turn it active, but no showings on Friday. And then the first showings start on Saturday at the open house. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I think it's pretty smart. What we're seeing a lot more of though now is agents are like, well, go to the open house and let me know if you like it. So, which defeats the purpose for those of us working the open house, but it does happen. And you got to always be thinking, when the person coming through, if they do have an agent or they're not looking right now, is this somebody who I need to put in my sphere? Is this somebody who may be a client down the road? So we'll get more into that on converting. It's very smart to put your signs out in advance. So if you have rider signs that say open Saturday, open Sunday, go ahead and let as many people know as possible that house is going to be open for viewings. And then make yourself familiar with the community. I cannot tell you how many times I have gone to my own, I love looking at houses. I'm in real estate, but we'll go to an open house and I walk in and I start a conversation with the agent. I let them know I'm an agent, but then I start asking questions, and it's crazy to find out they don't know anything about the house for sale down the street. They don't know anything about the community. They don't know, especially in new homes, they don't know who the builders are. They don't know, make yourself, if you're going to be out there trying to, pick up potential buyers, the first thing they want to see is your value and educating them on what they may be buying. So make yourself familiar with that community. Go ahead and do a quick CMA. If you're sitting in a house that's grossly overpriced, you need to know that, because people are very abrupt these days. I've had people walk in and say, why is this price so high? And you want to be able to defend what you're working. If you know it's priced high, at least have some value in the home. Well, other homes that sold didn't have this, this, and this, or, the house down the street was substantially smaller. One of my favorite, especially from people from different states, especially up north, where they have huge property taxes, they're like, why is the tax value so much different than the list price? Know why. If you're in Johnson County, the taxes are much different than they are in Wake County. Same if you go to Chatham. I'm not saying you have to calculate this person's tax bill, but that's a question I used to get a lot, especially from people from New York, Chicago, New Jersey.
I got your question right there.
Okay. Let me see. Are they allowed in our area, and how do you find neighbor addresses quickly? So the new CRS system they just rolled out, it replaced Realist. It's actually got a great farming tool in it, where you can actually add different layers. You can find out if the homes are owner occupied on that street. So CRS we use, you can actually download the labels straight from CRS to do farming, and it'll give you their contact information. And then if you want to take it a step further and call and invite them, we use Spokio. It's like $20 a month, and I can put in somebody's address, their name, or their phone number, and it will populate me their phone numbers, their email addresses. You just have to break it down by like state and city, but it's incredibly cheap to have their information. So that's how we kind of farm the sellers. When is the best time to announce it? 2 weeks before, 1 week before? Especially in this market with inventory issues the way they are, if it's coming soon, I would start 2 weeks before. You're already marketing that it's coming soon. So go ahead and start building up that bucket of buyers. If it's a new listing, you're going to hit the market, then I would do it within that first week. So again, that you make sure you get the best buyer. You're getting as many buyers through as you possibly can. But again, going back to making yourself familiar with the community, know what the amenities are, know what the HOA fees are. I think that's the hardest part to convert is if you're not overeducated, you don't know what to say. And as soon as the buyer figures out you have a value, then they're going to continue talking to you. Okay, some Blair's answering for me. For farming, it's under the tax tab on Paragon. Yep. So the day of, I can't say enough about being prepared the day of. I will be honest, I have been the culprit of showing up late to an open house. I have been like flying, in on 2 wheels. That looks so unprofessional. And I didn't realize it until I saw another agent do it. And I showed up at an open house. It was some of my clients. It was a brand new house hitting the market, had been coming soon. And we were there maybe 3 minutes before it started. Agent was nowhere to be found. The sellers were still there. They were panicked, couldn't get in touch with the agent. I'm trying to reach the agent. All the neighbors are paying attention to what is happening because it's a pretty Sunday afternoon. They're all outside right after church. And when I saw that, like from my own eyes, I was like, thank goodness none of my sellers had still been there or nobody was waiting on me. But when I saw that happen, I was like, this could have been me multiple times. And it was like a quick, I don't ever want that to be me moment. And they're like, sorry, I was coming from another showing. And it just makes the seller feel like they were not your priority for the day. And it makes the buyers kind of look at you like, wow, this lady definitely doesn't have it together when it comes to working with them. So be prepared, be on time, never be late, always arrive early. Bring MLS sheets with your info. You can print them off. So it's the buyer version. So it gives them just a little bit of information. And then it has your contact information, logo, all of that at the bottom. I also, if it's not your listing, go ahead and pull the RPD, the plat, the covenants, the ortho photo. Buyers love to ask those questions. How far does the fence go? Where's the property line? And if you're like, well, this isn't really my listing, so I'm not sure. Again, that buyer is probably not going to be converted into a buyer for you because you did not prove value. KV Core has a great open house app where you can have people log in. With things the way they are today, I feel like we are so warranted for asking for people's contact information. And especially in new construction, I always say, will you please sign in? The builder needs to know everyone that came through. And for a resale, I say the sellers need a record of everybody that came through the house. When you explain it to somebody like that, they're not like, oh, no, I'm not going to give you my phone number, my contact information. I don't want you calling me every day. When you explain it like it's for security purposes, very, very rarely do I get any pushback. And if I do, I'm like, if you could just give me one other, just an email or a phone number. And if they still push back, I'm like, okay, then I just need your name. So I have a record of who came through. So you're just kind of proving the point that it's for security purposes. Another thing we have adopted recently is PPE stations everywhere. It kind of helps people feel more comfortable. And you can even put that in some of your marketing in your Facebook group, come view this house safely. We have PPE stations, so again, on Amazon, I order them in bulk. They're little canvas boxes and they say, please remove shoes. You can get the booties, $100 of them for I think $19. And then I have a little hand sanitizer, usually branded by my lender, just sitting on a stool or sitting on the floor when they come in. And then my rule of thumb is always, if they come in with a mask, then I put my mask on. If they come in without a mask, I ask them what their preference is. Again, not something I ever had to incorporate to an open house presentation before, but that's the world we're in now. And it makes people feel like you are really concerned with their level of comfort. So, and then we like to bring little gifts. I can't tell you how many people have stayed and talked and called back because they're like, I've been to 10 open houses and nobody's ever given me anything. When I say gifts, I mean a cup and a pen from one of our lenders, or a little tape measure, all the swag that you get from your lenders and places, or swag that you have. And it's obviously always got something branded by us, maybe a koozie, but we have less than probably $2 to $3 in each one of these bags. I bought white paper bags off Amazon. I got red tissue paper to put in them. And then I have stickers with our logo on them that go on the front. Simple as that. We take 3 or 4 of them to an open house. And people are so funny when you give them something, you know, all of a sudden they're like, thank you. Like, I don't know what I did to deserve this gift. And it's, again, it's nothing to it, but it makes them feel like, wow, I attended an event. I didn't just walk through and I hope the realtor didn't talk to me. They're much more open when you're standing there like, oh, did y'all get a gift last open house you went to or whatever? They're a lot more, I don't know, approachable, I think is the word. When they see that you're standing there ready to hand them a gift. Same thing with bottles of water. I mean, just silly little things. Now, I don't bake, so I don't bake cookies. Nobody wants my cookies, but I have seen that before. I think in these times, again, nobody wants to eat anything that somebody else has touched or made, so maybe prepackaged cookies or whatever. Let me see. Oh yeah, Blair's answering questions because she's awesome. Any questions so far? I know I've kind of been like, ugh. So that's everything preparing, leading up to conducting the open house. And I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm telling you, the routine, the system of it, I really feel like fuels good results. I have converted a lot of buyers that came in with an agent and they're like, oh no, we're already working with an agent. And then 2 months later, they still haven't found what they were looking for. And they came back to me because they're like, you were so knowledgeable. You told us all this stuff and you didn't have to because we had an agent. So they came back to me as a buyer, not even on that house, but on other homes. So at the open house, engage with everyone. Now, I literally have been standing in a house where you can hear somebody walk in and be like, oh, the realtor's here. And I'm like, when did we become villains? Like, obviously there's a sign out front. Why would you not think there's an agent here? So some people do have that attitude. Don't let that put you off that they're unapproachable. They probably have just had a bad experience with a overly salesy agent. So don't engage with everyone. Don't, you know, just because they seem unapproachable, not approach. You're getting ready to ask a question.
Yeah. So you said like even if they say we're already with an agent,
Mhm.
what do you do with that? Because I know I had 2 that came in and they said they had an agent already, but it didn't seem like they had found the one yet and they've been with them for like about like 6 months-ish. So like what would you do with them? Like would you follow up with them or like put them in your like to call list in the future, or like how often would you like reach out?
So you got to be very careful with that. So it doesn't like your poaching agent. So my first conversation is, okay, great. Well, I don't want to step on any toes. Now, if it's my listing, I'm going to immediately email their agent. If they tell me they have an agent, I want to know who that agent is because I want to email their agent and say, hey, your buyers came through. Just wanted to see if I can assist you with anything and answering their questions. Because at the end of the day, I'm still trying to sell my listing. So as a buyer's agent sitting in an open house, the conversation would be, okay, great. Well, I don't want to step on any toes, but I'm absolutely here to help any way I can. If you have any questions, just be overly helpful. Like I said, everybody is out there looking for the agent they feel has the best value for what they are looking for. And it may be that they connect with you better than they do their agent. Their agent, in my situation, the one that I converted, their agent was their parents' agent. After about 4 months, they were tired of working with their parents' agent because they didn't get them. They didn't connect. Whereas they sat in my open house and we chit-chatted for an hour about the area and things to do and all that. So we built a connection because I didn't stop talking to them just because they had an agent. You see what I'm saying? So find something you connect on. Now, if they're just kind of like shutting down and they have an agent, then don't waste it so much of your time. But don't not engage either just because they do. Any other questions so far? The other way to engage is to keep them talking. Let's be honest, we're all on social media because we want everybody to know our opinion on everything. So if you're standing in an open house, ask them their opinion on things. You know, a lot of times, well, let me go back because I'm kind of jumping ahead. When they first walk in, I give them the option, hey guys, you know, I'm such and such with such and such, you know, here to answer any questions you have. Would you like me to give you a tour? Or do you want to look around yourself? 9 times out of 10, they want to look around themselves. Now, if I'm in a resale home that has people's personal property in it, then I'm going to go with them regardless. I don't give them the option. I'm going to say, I'm just going to stay with you for the seller's protection. Now, if somebody comes in, I may have to run down and greet them too, but you're setting that expectation of you aren't just going to willy-nilly walk around here and look through everything by yourself, people's personal property here. And again, they should respect that. If they have a house, they would want the exact same treatment. If it's a vacant home or new construction, I give them the option because sometimes you need them to take it in without feeling like somebody's right behind them, stalking them. For safety purposes, I always try to go ahead of people, or excuse me, stay behind people. You don't want them behind you. And then you always have a whole safety spiel, but you always unlock all the doors when you get there, so there is an out somewhere. And then when you lock up, you make sure all the windows and doors are locked, because I have had instances, especially in new construction, where they'll go through and unlock the windows so that they can come back later if they're like scoping a house. So it's important to check that too. Remind me to come back to safety at the end, because I have a whole process. I just want somebody, I want y'all to implement if you need to have people, but I don't want to squirrel too bad, because I will do that. So when they get in, if they've walked themselves around, when they come back to you, you're standing usually in the kitchen with your beautiful gifts and your bottles of water and all your stuff, and you're standing there. I'm always like, so what'd you think? And again, they're like, it was okay. Then you need to find something specific to ask them, because they're kind of closed off. And so I'm always like, question. So I'm trying to give the builder feedback. What do you think of this light fixture? What do you think of this paint color? Just find something that's a little different in that house and ask them their opinion. And a lot of times, if they answer one question, they'll answer 30 questions at that point. They're having a conversation with you. So ask them their opinion, see what they like and don't like. So we haven't gotten to the conversation of agency yet or anything like that. I'm just kind of like making rapport at this point. So as long as I get them talking just a little bit, I'm going, so is this not the house for you? Because you can read their face and their, body language, and they're like, yeah, I'm not excited about this. And so then I'm going, so what would you change? What would make this house better for you? Make sure they are open-ended questions as much as possible. And just, like I said, try to keep them talking and asking their opinion, because a lot of times they'll say, well, we really needed another bedroom upstairs. Again, if you're in new construction, this is why it pays to know the neighborhood you're doing an open house in. I get there early. I go through all the houses that are in that neighborhood, even if they're not on the market, as long as they're not like under contract or locked up. If there's some currently in construction, I want to say, oh, well, there's one 2 doors down that has another bedroom on the 2nd floor. Would y'all like to go take a look at that one? It's not on the market yet, but I can show it to you. All of a sudden they're like, wait, you can show us what we want and nobody else has seen it yet. And it's not even available. It's going to take you down a whole nother rabbit hole with the builder. But that's why it's important to know, if you're in new construction, what you're marketing, what's out there, what's available, because they may feed you all the information you need to turn you into their buyer's agent right then, because you start providing value. Now, if they're overly excited about everything, then you also want to go ahead and try to lock it in, so, okay, well, it sounds like this is, a great fit for you. So where are you at in the process? Have you already spoken with a lender? Are you working with an agent? That's when I start having this conversation and see what they say. Now, again, if you're the listing agent on site, new construction, you're going to have a whole different conversation working with agents. I work for the seller. Please understand, yada, yada. Let me know if you ever want more verbiage on that. But they don't have an agent. No, we haven't looked at getting a lender yet. We have a house to sell. Great. They're constantly feeding you information to ask questions on. Perfect. Where's your house currently? And you just kind of go down that trail of, how can I help you? Like in the back of your mind, every question needs to be a different version of how can I help you? So obviously they have a house to sell. Hopefully you're going to turn around and get that listing as well. I have literally jumped out of an open house. I'm like, okay, well, I'm locking up at 4. Would you like me to come over real quick and take a look at your house and work on a market analysis? Just because I did have a lot of people through the house today. So if this is one that you're serious about, we need to go ahead and get the other ball rolling if you're going to be contingent. So if you've got somebody excited, it is important that you keep that ball moving forward as fast as you can. Not salesy, not pushy. Hopefully nothing I've said so far seemed overly salesy, just helpful. Brad, my husband's in here, so he'll tell you, like, I've been late to birthday parties and dinners. I'm like, sorry, these people are really excited. I'm going to have to go to their house right now and take a look at it. And just kind of give them an idea of what I think we can list it for, so that they go to bed that night excited and they're already planning and dreaming and packing up the house they're in and moving into the new one.
We could talk amongst ourselves. Has anyone had a successful open house, and what were your tips and tricks?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Melissa.
Hey girls, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I don't know what happened to her, but I mean, who's done a really good open house and what did you do?
I've never done one.
I had a good open house, but it's not because of my efforts. It was a really good price point.
One of my favorite buyers, they were first time home buyers and I met them at an open house, totally connected, converted them. And, you know, I didn't do a whole lot for the open house either, but it
That was
happened.
my first buyer too. I met at the first open house that I did, converted them to a buyer as well too. And it is really important to know as much as you can about the neighborhood and the house.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think people find that to be of most value than all the extra like kitschy stuff.
Right. No, I would agree. You know, the more value you can have as a realtor to provide that potential buyer or seller.
Mm-hmm.
We just got muted.
Use the KV Core app, the best thing in the world.
I keep getting muted.
I mean, this is nuts. Did y'all have
Any-
trouble logging in? I had trouble logging in.
Yeah.
Wendy did. Yeah.
Has anybody else used the KV Core app and I've had a glitch on me a few times and I've lost all my people.
Happened to me one time, so I didn't use it again.
Yeah. So I've been really reluctant to use it because, you know, I lost a couple really good prospects.
It has not happened to me, but I have a great experience because the app texts them right away after the open house,
Mhm.
and you right away know who is interested and who is not. I mean, you can do it, of course, yourself, but you're tired in the end of the day, so
Yeah.
it's helpful. But thanks for letting us know. I'll watch out for this.
Yeah. So how does the app work? Like somebody comes through the open house and you chat them up and you
Back to the open house app for KV Core. So I don't even ask them. Yeah.
It's our own training.
Yeah, I don't even explain myself why I asked them to sign. They walk in, I just ask them, please sign in. I have some information here for you. I'm offering the information and let them tour the house and then start with the questions. But I've never had somebody hesitant not to sign. I don't explain myself, just please sign in and pick up your information. That's it. And they do it.
I think people would just trust that that's part of the process of going to an open house.
Yeah. And the more you're explaining yourself, the more you sound sketchy, right? So
The more you talk, the sketchier you are.
for me, that's for sure.
I liked her tip about unlocking the windows and making sure they're locked back. I've never gone around and unlocked the windows. But that, you know, that makes sense. Curious to hear her realtor safety tips too. That's a big deal.
Agreed. Want to hear the safety tips. Has anyone ever had an episode which was not too safe that they can share?
I'm not thinking this.
No, but I would say, guys, if you're showing a house and if you don't know who you're showing it to, park in a way that you can leave as soon as possible. Do not park first on the parking space and then blocking you behind. I think that's the first thing. And the second thing, always have your keys in your hand, either pepper spray or something else close. But I've never had that. 8 years now. Luckily, for now, I haven't had any of it, any problems.
I actually had one guy that was very sketchy and his story kept changing, and it was a lead that I had gotten through realtor.com. And his story, literally, as I kept walking him down the path, his story changed 3 times. And so I started getting nervous, and he kept looking behind him. And I'm like, you know, is somebody going to come in this house? Like, what's happening? So I started getting, you know, edgy and made my way to where I was outside in the backyard. And then I kind of like just dismissed it and like let him go his way and didn't make contact with him anymore. Well, then I was signed up for different zip codes in different cities. The guys, I kept getting.
I know they are you. Well, I mean, I'm pretty much kind of wrapped up unless there's.
Keep going, Brandy. What
Poor
happened?
thing the poor thing keeps freezing. So anyways, he ended up going through 3 different.
Get it signed. So I do, and I always keep the brochures with me. They look much less contracty than the ones I print off from the Real Estate Commission.
Okay.
So, I mean, from Zip Form. So it's worth it to spend the 25 cents to buy them from the realtor store
Okay.
to just have. So I have that conversation kind of 2 different ways. Again, with working in new construction and being the listing agent, I have to have the seller sub-agency question a lot. So I kind of gauge our conversation. If you've got, it's hard if you've got like 7, 8, 10 people coming through. It
Right.
doesn't always happen. I do have a little brochure holder that has them by the door. So I feel like I've at least given them the opportunity if it's crazy busy.
Okay.
But if we're sitting there talking and people love to start talking, they're like, oh yeah, we're already pre-qualified. We pre-qualified for $500,000 and we don't have that. And I'm like, ho, let me stop you. I'm like, this is like the HIPAA form of real estate. I got to give it to everybody I come in contact with. And please know that as of right now, I'm working for the seller. If you decide to hire me, I will work exclusively for you. But right now because I'm always a listing agent. So I don't typically get to say I'll be working exclusively for you. But if you're just an agent sitting in a house to pick up buyers, then you can say, hey, I really want to continue down this path with you. Let's continue this conversation, but I want to make sure you understand how agency works. You know, I would love for you to hire me as your buyer's agent, but right now I just need to make sure you know how it works. And I have to give this to everybody I come in contact with just because I need you are allowed to protect your privacy, and I don't need to know too much until you want me to know too much. Does that make sense? The best thing out, like I said, is when you say the HIPAA form of real estate, people are like, all right, whatever, I got to sign this for anything. So, but then like, it depends on how the conversation is going as far as working with real estate agents. And sometimes it's just a conversation I'm having. And then I don't just throw the brochure at them.
Right.
Like if we start going down this path, then I'm going to be like, okay, it looks like we're going to be working together, which is so exciting. So the first thing we're going to do is fill this out just so I'm protected. I have to show my firm that I have this conversation with you. And so it seems like use the firm as a scapegoat or use the real estate commission as a scapegoat. Like I'm not trying to, this isn't locking you in with me. This is just saying that I told you that I can work for you, but right now I'm like I said, I have to say a lot because I'm working for the seller.
So if I'm just a buyer agent, not doing listings, but I'm sitting in one of Sharon's,
Mm-hmm.
how do I go about doing that? Like, do I, even though I would be representing them and not representing?
I would come straight at it from the buyer standpoint of, hey, I really want to have this conversation with you, and I hope that you decide to hire me as your buyer's agent so that I can solely represent you. But in the meantime, I have to give this to everybody I come in contact with.
Okay.
And again, if you have a
Because
little.
technically right now I work for those sellers.
Correct.
Okay.
So, again, I don't like scream it from the rooftops
Right.
because they don't get it. They still don't get it. And so that's why I feel like they see a whole little brochure holder sitting there and things like, hey, I got to give these to everybody. Then, because before they sign it, hopefully they're going to read it and you get to explain it to them a little bit. This tells you the difference between working with an agent who works for the seller and working with an agent who's just going to work for you as a buyer's agent.
I feel like I just get into like such a great conversation with these prospects, you know, with the,
And you don't want to scare them off.
right,
Mhm.
like really good, like I have converted leads at open houses. I love open houses. I
Me
do
too.
Open houses, I do Saturdays and Sundays.
As soon as they start telling me any personal information, I'm like, ho, I need to make you aware of your rights almost. You know, you need to let them know that they are oversharing at this point. You know what I mean? But
Because I'm the one that's asking the questions, like, so tell
Yeah.
me what it is, what is your, you know, but I need to have that conversation before I'm asking these questions.
yeah, and once you've already built that rapport, it's not as hard of a conversation to have. So
Right,
it's
right,
just it's a nerve thing, I think, with
Yeah,
all something
right.
that we do. I do the same thing if there's a showing. So I will show somebody one without having buyer agency, but
Exactly.
then we're going to have that conversation.
Okay.
And we really go down that rabbit hole. And you can kind of get there a couple different ways as far as asking if they're pre-qualified.
Yeah.
So know your lenders well and know their incentives. And so the way I start that conversation is, hey, just curious, are you guys already working with a lender? Because ours offers 1% of your closing costs paid. So if you're not, I would love to get you in touch with them so they can let you know what your options are as far as programs, whether you're buying this house or not. If there's any incentive, if it's, I don't know any lender that won't give $500 or something. And then you can say, our lender offers to pay part of your closing costs. So I just want to make sure you're working with the right lender. Again, everything I'm saying is that it's in their best interest and how I'm providing value.
How often do you connect with them afterwards? Like I know 12 touches, but like I'll always follow up with like the property disclosure and I'll email them and I'll, you know, whatever, it was great meeting you, here's some more information about the home property disclosure. But like, if you don't hear a response, like how
so one of my first responses is, hey, I just wanted to make sure you have this information. Also moving forward, what is your preferred method of communication? Because 9 times out of 10, they respond to that. So like that's our autoresponder on all of our leads, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to say text, phone call, or email. And so now you know how to connect them and they've kind of opened the door to connect them. If they don't respond, or if I don't have an answer, then we're going to call one day, email the next day, text the day after that, call one day, email the next day. You know, just keep it changing, because my theory with this is the same as car sales. And I've said this before. So if you go to a car lot, as soon as you pull on the lot, what happens? Look, everybody is on you. There's 12 salesmen right there ready to sell you something. And you're like, no, just want to look for myself. You walk around the lot, you find the car you want to see, it's locked. You look around and there's not a soul to be found. And so then you have to go back into the sales center, and whoever's standing there is the person you're stuck with as your salesman. You have to be that salesman that is standing there. If you are constantly in front of them, then that person is not turning around looking to the next agent to open the door for them. It's very, I mean, same, unfortunately, I see it happen all the time with internet leads. It's who, I know it's speed to lead, but it's also like consistency with leads. Right. And Katie Core has proven that to me, with it constantly following up with my people. Now they're responding back. They're like, so sorry, I haven't gotten back to you. I'm like, I don't even know, I was emailing you. Right. But that, in my opinion, you just continue to follow up and try to provide value. If it's just like a quick update or something. And you just keep, you go until they say no, in my opinion. Because you don't know, they may have gone out of town for a week and they come back and then now they're serious. Or, I mean, if you think of all the times you've bought houses, what has your situation been? Or, you know, anytime you've moved or made a big decision, sometimes you do it and you're like, no, it's not going to work. And then 3 weeks later, you're back at the dealership buying the car that you said you weren't going to buy 3 weeks ago and it didn't work for you. So same thing with houses. A lot of times they go to bed and they're like, yeah, we just couldn't make it work. And then 2 days later, they have thought about it and drove by it. And now they can't live without it. And they're going to turn to the first agent that is there. So make that agent be you. Any more questions coming up? Or?
So when we had our internet issue, people started actually having conversations within the Zoom meeting and really valuable conversations.
It sounds like it was good.
Maybe we can open up this last 10 minutes for Q&A and maybe continue the conversations that they were having. Well,
yeah.
Thanks everyone for sticking with us.
Yeah, I'm good.
Can you talk a little bit about the security that you were going to talk about?
Yes, thank you. So again, always make sure you unlock all the doors when you get in there. Have a buddy, have an open house buddy. So for my team, we have a file system. So it's called Red, Yellow, Green. We always know they have their open houses on our shared calendars. I know where everybody's at all times. But they also, if you feel uncomfortable at any time, they send out a text message. And there's also a central lock feature if you're ever uncomfortable. I don't know all the details about it, but it's worth looking into. So I always say, hey, somebody just called for the question. Give me 1 second and I'll call somebody in the office. And if they say, yes, it's in the red file on my desk, that means send police, ambulance, fire department. If they say yellow, then one of us, and that we're calling their spouse, that we are going to that open house that they're at. And then a lot of times that green is just, I'm good. So we do that for showings and for open houses to make sure that if at any time you're feeling uncomfortable, you can handle it in code words. So you can come up with what works for you, but we've done it, you know, via text messages, because it's easy to be like, sorry, I'm trying to get my hotspot to connect. And she's, you know, texting me red file, you know, so that it's not flagging the person that's in there. But always have a buddy and make sure they know where you're at. I mean, obviously the open house is advertised, but still, people also know that there's somebody sitting in there by themselves typically.
Where are we, advertising on the MLS and
So yes, make sure you put them in MLS and put them in there as far in advance, because the MLS syndicates to Zillow and Realtor.com and all the other sites that there is an open house going on. Any other questions? I don't think there's anything we missed. Yeah, so the biggest thing, like I said, I hear people all the time say that they don't get any business from open houses, and I think it's because they fail to plan, so the plan fails. And if you're not doing the work on the front end, you are going to be sitting there by yourself most of the time. With the lack of inventory right now, I just don't see any reason that there should not be some business to the open houses, because people just don't have anything to look at. And then the other thing is make your time valuable while you're there. Make it good, solid work time. Take pictures, create content, read a motivational book, catch up on your emails, look at everything else that's going on in MLS and post about it. So that's the other thing. Facebook Lives and open houses are fantastic. I mean, you're essentially giving a virtual tour. So you may hit a buyer that didn't even know they wanted to look at that house, and you just took them through it and they're like, it's exactly what I've been looking for. I meant to note that in my notes. I always do Facebook Lives are much better than just a video. You get more engagement on the Facebook Lives, and then you can download the video and have that for future marketing purposes.
I just like you asked about the audiences. Is there like a group you like have found on Facebook that like gives off opportunities for agents to be open houses? Because I know there's a group for like announcing there's going to be an open house. But like, are there opportunities other than Freedom Builders? Because I know there's
I am not aware of any that put out open house opportunities. Like I said, I typically put mine in the Freedom Builders to see, because I want to make sure it's an agent that I know who they're working with, what kind of representation my seller is going to get if they're coming and working out the open houses. And then, we typically connect before the open house so that I can brief them on what's going on. We had one last weekend. We only had one house and it was not finished, and that was the only one in MLS, but I had two more down the street that weren't listed yet. So I was like, make sure you know about these, because these are probably what you're going to be selling. And if anybody wants specific information, text me, because I don't have pricing on it yet, but I can get it. So
you can always call an agent also, like a listing agent or not, you local or something else.
Especially in some of the communities you're farming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like call a sign, I know where you're farming or subdivision, like find a sign and call them.
Yep. And you're probably going to get your better traction from your lower priced houses, and not everybody's clamoring to do open houses in those. But that's where, in my opinion, you're going to get more opportunity for people to come. So I'm done. If there's no other questions.
Thank you. It's great.
You're welcome. Sorry to talk so fast.
Yeah, thank you.
I just think it's so still undervalued. I think,
Most people say don't waste your time on them.
that's because
I get all my leads in open houses. I can't,
I completely built my business on open houses.
I like to be in front of people, behind the telephone, they don't know who you are, they don't want to
It's not that person.
call, but when you have that warm lead, like, hey, I think we're doing house yesterday, it's so much better,
But a lot of it is about reading the room too. If they're totally standoffish, then I don't push that so hard. But if they'll start talking a little bit, then I'm gonna
I
heard you
don't
got
attack anyone when they come to the door, because a lot of agents are like, so I'm like, hey, I just gave a little speech about the home, if it's vacant, right? And take a look around, let me know if you have any questions, and then of course, get them when they get out. You get them in the beginning, like, you ask too many questions, or you
then they're gonna try to run out the back door when you're not looking.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Thank you, April.
You're welcome.